Welcome, welcome, welcome everybody to another edition of Hot Program. I am your host with the most, all the way from the East Coast. And as always, folks, I am in airplane mode. And now a man who is in hairplane mode, a man who needs no introduction. How you doing today, my one black friend?
I'm doing okay. Thanks, Pocket Locker. How about you?
I'm all right. Busy beaver. So today we're going to talk about prayer. The video we're going to be watching is called Prayer Life Stink, a short guide to how to talk with God instead of at him.
This will be really interesting
on how to talk with God, not to God. And it is Prophet Azad made a video about this video earlier this week.
Yeah.
But I just think wanted to chat a little. I haven't seen the original. I didn't get to see because he skipped a bunch of stuff. So this is the original video. And yeah, I have thoughts about prayer, so I figured we check it out. Let's go ahead and get into it.
All right.
You know that one person you catch on the phone and they only call you to complain or when they need something and they just spew words at you nonstop and it's all about them and it's not about you and you can't even get a word in and then they just say, okay, goodbye, click. I think that's how God sometimes feels when we pray.
All right. Now, this is something that I thought was interesting because when I first heard this, I actually had the same thought as Prophet Azad, which is that it's actually, and literally I felt like it took the words out of my mouth, which was that it's more like those times when you're talking and talking and talking, and then you stop talking and you're waiting for the other person to respond and to say something, just to even know that they're still there, and then you don't hear anything, so you just keep talking and talking and talking, and then you wait again to hear something from them, and they don't, and then you just keep talking and talking, and you're like trying to cover for the awkwardness that they apparently aren't saying anything. And most people know if this happens to you more than once or twice on the phone, you're gonna be like, "Hello, are you still there with me?" Oh, okay, all right. Yeah. But I actually thought it's worse than that. It's I want to compare. It's not something we normally do, but it's really more like you have this experience of talking and talking and talking to this person and they're not responding. And you're asking them really for like a lot of times like advice or guidance or support or whatever it is. And they never say anything. And then later when you get off the phone, you start seeing random things and you attribute that to being their response. Like, you're trying to decide between a job in the city and a place in the city and the place in the country. And, the particular route you have to take into the city or something. Like you read a newspaper about high crime and danger in that neighborhood that you were looking at, and then you get stuck in a traffic jam on your way to the city and you go, oh, this is you telling me I would prefer to live in the country.
The Lord spoke,
right? Like just random things start happening later and you just attribute that to actually being the friend's response. Like they're showing you now the things that they wouldn't tell you when they were on the phone. And I don't know if y'all does anybody y'all see what I'm saying though? Like it's much worse than just not getting a response. You literally have to pretend later that you got one just to keep the relationship going.
One of my favorite things in the Bible is in the book of Jeremiah. Someone comes up to Jeremiah Jeremiah, is there any word from the Lord? And Jeremiah's response is, there is. And then he tells it. So the way I envision this in my mind, if it really happened, Jeremiah goes, the scribe just didn't write the
Yeah,
down.
but this is the thing too about, and it's one of the things that it's one of the things that I find really interesting actually about religion is, especially from the perspective of a non-believer, I know God's not talking to these people,
Right.
yet they claim that God is telling them all sorts of stuff. This was a God thing, that was a God thing. God told me to do this, God told me to do that. So we're just not really living in the same reality.
Well, I think this is a window into how necessary for many of the faithful to really believe that God is there. As you mentioned, they will take signs, right? They will turn everyday occurrences into signs. They will turn them into signs. Oh, well, this country road is pretty. That little market there sells things that I like. They have excellent coffee. Maybe I should live out in the country.
Yes.
As opposed to 30 minutes closer.
And to be fair, this does happen in life. So sometimes in life, you call a parent or something and you're having a conversation, and then something will happen later that reminds you of what they said or seems to speak to the advice that they gave you. They tell you to be careful about a situation, and then you see maybe a friend or something that happened. Like, oh, that's what mom was warning me about. But the thing is, they're really there, and they really told you, and you heard, you were in the same room with them, and you know what I'm saying? Like it's totally different. But I'm just saying that is something that happens in relationship. It's the part where you just have to fake all of it that makes it really different.
Well, the human mind tries to solve problems. So if you have something, you do research science, right? I'm sure when you're at the grocery store, you might be thinking about something you need to do for the university you work for, right? How do I solve this problem? And suddenly you realize the possibilities could come from anywhere. The inspiration could come from anywhere. So when you're in the grocery store in the coffee aisle, the labels, the brands may have more meaning. The smells in the air may have more meaning because your brain is trying to figure something out. Because once it's done processing the problem and a solution is implemented, it can do other things that might even be more fun. So that just keeps coming up. If you're trying to come up with money to buy something special that you want to enjoy, I'll give you, for instance, for me with my truck, I bought it, and then I'm like, well, I spend about $18,000 total budget. Well, how do I get the money? Well, I got all this stuff I don't use. Let me start selling it. And what are the outlets I can sell it for? Sell it at, and then my brain starts solving that problem. And I would see something that just had been sitting down in my house for years. Like, I don't need this. Why don't I sell this? So the solutions are there. And when people attribute things to God, that's what they're doing. They're turning the solution that they see, they're crediting it to divine inspiration, divine providence, right? God is giving them what they need. God is providing what they requested. Now,
but they're interpreting it. They're interpreting it as signs and wonders.
Exactly. Whether it is or not.
Yeah, absolutely.
So numerous times I've said, hey, you want to prove there's a God? Heal those kids in the children's hospital. I've said it for over a year now. It hasn't occurred. Now, we can determine a few things. God if he exists, is not interested in doing this. God thinks I'm a jerk, and just out of spite, God won't do it. God can't do it, or there isn't a God to do it.
No, we can definitely. We can definitely determine that either he's not interested or doesn't exist. All right, let's keep going.
Okay.
And if you're anything like me, prayer can fall into 4 categories.
And please do donate to help Lena. Lena's still really in a time of need. There are 2 links down in the description under this video. So please do show your love and support. Really appreciate everybody that's donated or continue to spread the word.
There's dry and stale.
You can also donate from Gather.
Like a dried out old bagel. Or we say the same things over and over again like a broken record. Or we treat God like some giant vending machine in the sky where I put a little something in and get a little something out. Or worse, prayer becomes the most annoying chore or obligation possible, like vacuuming the entire house when it's 9,000 degrees outside. Whatever it is, we're going to stop praying. And once we stop praying, it's like when we stop watering the plant. Our faith dies. So I just
so this is stuff that I kind of maybe would have hit on a bit more if I was Zod, because this is kind of I was wondering where he got this idea about this Christians being made to feel bad if they're not motivated to pray or if they don't want to pray. And so this is what he's saying. So yeah, this is really the issue, right? Because they're talking to themselves. And so yeah, it is gaslighting them to not be able to see the reality that they're just in a room talking to themselves. And it is difficult. And first off, that how else is it going to be? Of course it's going to be dry, because it's just you in a room talking to yourself, and it's very difficult to like make yourself believe that something's going to happen, because a lot of Christians, you've been doing this for years and years, and you see other people praying all the time, and at some level you just believe it doesn't work, and you feel compelled to do it. You feel like you're being compelled to give everything to this relationship, but you're really not getting anything out of it.
No.
The broken record thing that's true too. It's just like, again, what are you gonna do? Like you speak these words, and I see this a lot of times too, where like a lot of Christians use broken record prayers. It's not just like Catholicism. Sometimes you think of the Catholics and like, because their prayers are pre-scripted, but most people end up with broken record prescripted prayer. You have a certain prayer you do before you eat, a certain prayer you do maybe before you go to bed, certain things you pray for routinely on Sunday morning or whatever it is. The vending machine, I think, is how most of us pray. I think there's also like sometimes a desperation prayers. I almost don't think they count as prayers, because you don't have to be religious for them. Like, something catastrophic happens and you say, oh my God, or you instinctually pray in that moment that something happens different. I don't think that's a genuine religious act. It's just a part of panicking. And then the chore obligation, that's I mean, these are all things that people need to think about. But yeah, he's going to take this in a different direction.
Well, there's something else to consider in our modern times. We have smart devices, including some people's automobiles, where you can tell it what you want. You can say, hey, navigate me to this place. What time does this business close? What's the nearest location for an ATM or something like that, right? We can do it to our phones. We can do it with some of our computers, as I said, vehicles, and get an instantaneous response. Well, look, if God is responsible for creating the entire universe, why can't he be as good as Google?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of very interesting, is that God can't even guide you to the nearest grocery store. Michael Beverly with the $2 super chat. I'm talking to myself whenever I make a YouTube video. Definitely, for sure. Thanks for the super chat, Michael.
Been there, felt that, Michael.
I don't know if you're doing world traveling or whatever, switching up the currency on us, but definitely appreciate that donation, my friend.
Like vacuuming the entire house when it's 9,000 degrees outside. Whatever it is, we're going to stop praying.
You're going to stop
and once
praying.
we stop praying, it's like when we stop watering the
Why does
plant.
that video look like
Our
crap?
faith dies. So I just wanted to pass along some thoughts and techniques I've picked up along the way that have helped me break out of all these and really helped me take my prayer a little deeper.
All right, let me just say something about this before he goes into his spiel about how he's going to make his prayer a little bit deeper. Something I really can't stand about Christianity that I think we need to be more honest about is that it is really destructive for an individual. First off, prayer doesn't work. It literally is just being by yourself and whispering at the sky or whatever. But it's really problematic that believers not just do this, that they believe in this, but that they just this is a cult and it's obsessive. And so they're told not just that like they should pray, but that they should have a prayer life, and more of their life and their time should be given over to prayer, and they should go deeper and deeper or higher and higher. I don't know which direction you go, but y'all know they should increase their level of their prayer power, right? So this is really actually quite corrosive of a thing to be encouraging people to do. And it's one of those things where like I just don't think there's any form of Christianity that I'm okay with. And this is part of the reason why, because even out of concern for the individual Christian who, may not be a danger to others, this religion is a danger to them. And even if they're, because we're always like, well, what if their faith is harmless, and they're not really bothering anybody? I'm still not okay with this, because this is just not, it's not okay to manipulate other people out of their time, their money, their energy like this. Yeah.
Now, Pocket Locker, I will add, there's a dangerousness to believing that prayer works. We've seen people prosecuted for praying for their child rather than getting their child professional medical care in time to save that child's life.
Yeah, and they should be.
They think prayer works that well. I responded to a Red Pen Logic short where I forget what the initial thing. Oh, no. There was a guy, I suppose an atheist, saying, hey, Christians, don't drink this antifreeze. It's poisonous to you. It's dangerous to your health. And, God won't save you if you drink this. And Red Pen Logic opens up a Bible and reads the scripture. The Bible says, do not put the Lord to the test. Well, my reply was a verse where literally it tells you to put the Lord to the test. And also, don't drink this. Red Pen Logic didn't give the context that this shows up in the Gospel of Mark in chapter 16. He doesn't tell you that. Right?
Red Pen Logic is an asshole. He's one of those guys who just is really smug and arrogant. He's very different than a lot of Christians. But he's one of those Christians I don't consider to be a good person. I think he's one of those guys that's really a scumbag and uses and hides behind his faith. All right, let's let this guy keep going.
Okay.
Are we going? Here we go.
Now, I'm not going to just give you some fancy definition of prayer, because I don't really think you can capture it just with some words. So instead, I'm going to give you a picture. To me, this is prayer. And this will make more sense as we go along, but if I had to put words to it, I would say it's the mutual emptying or pouring out of one heart into another until the two hearts become one. And oh, by the way, one of those hearts happens to be God's. Now, there are 3 ingredients necessary in order to make prayer prayer. And if any one of them are missing, your whole prayer is going to fall apart. I remember them as...
All right. So go check out the Prophet Azad video. I don't want to repeat Prophet Azad's sermon. He definitely highlighted how this is all basically meditation. And I think that's cool. And he gets into it. So you should check that out. Here, the thing that just irked me is the Christianese. I'm not going to talk about it from a meditative aspect. I'm just going to talk about it from a silly ass Christianese aspect. Christians, you just got to stop talking like this, pouring out your heart, two hearts becoming one. I mean, it's very, it's poetic language, sure. Maybe even you could say that we use this language with other people, other human relationships, and our pets, but it's just cultish nonsense. And I don't know. I think that we've accepted a lot of the language, and I like to push back on it.
PHT or okay, PHT. Have you ever been alone in a room? Maybe you're waiting for something, and somebody else enters the room. Now, you may not see them, maybe they come in behind you, but you're just aware of the presence of another person in the room. This is the starting point of all prayer, just the awareness of the presence of another person in the room. Or else we're just talking to ourselves in the dark. Hello?
All right, and again, like this is the presence thing, like you know, it's just, this is just anti-reality. Presence is a real thing. When somebody walks into the room, we don't really feel their presence. We hear their footsteps, we hear their breath, we notice a change in the air or something. You know, usually a lot of times it's a sound thing. You might be tuned out. Let's say you're listening to your headphones and you hear a door open. You don't really notice the sound of the door, but it's you know, you hear footsteps like a second or two later, and then you'll connect the footsteps to the door. That's the type of thing we mean when we say the presence of somebody in the room. It's just gaslighting to sit here and pretend like I could just sit in the dark in a room, and if I just focus my mind hard enough, if I just think right, that's what a lot of this is. If I just think right, I'm actually gonna feel the actual presence of God. And this is where, like, I don't care. Like, I'm a former Christian, and I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that this shit is cute. Like, no, you don't. You don't. You are, and he says, you are sitting in a dark room by yourself. That is what is happening. There's nothing we could do that would actually help us measure that presence. And it really reveals something. It really reveals that Christians understand God only exists in their brain. It exists in them, and they
Their
have to
version
go
of it.
into a room, dark, shut out everything else, and that's when they can feel the presence of God. Where? Inside them. It's not, oh, you shut down the room and you go, and then all of a sudden the window opens up and the wind comes in, and that's the spirit, and next the dove flies in the room. No, it's never anything anybody else could actually verify. It's just you feel a upwelling of your emotions, which anybody's gonna feel anytime you basically put yourself alone in a dark room anyway.
My freshman year of college, I went to see a hypnotist. This was the entertainment kind of hypnotist, you know. And he said afterwards, look, if anybody wants to know how I'm able to do this, I'll have a workshop downstairs in the lobby. So just come on over, you know, if you're interested. There must have been 80 of us that came to the workshop. The show was fantastic, by the way. He basically explained, look, one of the reasons I'm able to do this is because the people I hypnotized wanted to be hypnotized. Knowing that I might have them do something that's silly or whatever, they literally want it. So it's easier to hypnotize them.
But it's deeper than that too, because they know there's skepticism about hypnosis. They know a lot of people don't believe it. They know a lot of people think it's bunk. And so you would think that would, at least, if you told me, hey, Jason, there's this scam where people are sending out emails claiming to be a prince from Nigeria. They usually ask you to send them a small amount of money just to do some paperwork. Maybe it's a couple $100s, but in return, they're going to send you millions and millions of dollars because they need help, you know, whatever with the prince's inheritance or whatever. And then I get that email and I disregard the fact that you warned me that this type of thing is happening and I shouldn't participate in it. It's a scam and beware of it, because I'm so desperate to believe the narrative of the story. Right? I just wanted to say that, like, it's not just because there is like a, yes, they want to be hypnotized. Maybe they're the type of person that is into that experience, or they're into a little woo woo, or they want to feel special or whatever it is. But there's also that element of they got to be well aware of the fact that other people don't think hypnosis is real, and despite that, they, you know what I mean, they go under or whatever.
Right. Well, he explained us how to kind of tell when you meet a person how susceptible they are to it. There's a lot of psychology behind why it works for so many and why it utterly will not work. He explained, like, some of you, this isn't going to work at all on you. It doesn't matter how long I stand there and try. It's not going to work because you're not predisposed.
Right.
For those who are curious, it's people who have a lot of white in their eye. They are more susceptible to hypnosis, statistically. Anyway, I say that because imagine someone who's going to church week after week, and they're being exposed to prayer. They're told prayer works. The Bible suggests that prayer works. So in your mind, it's supposed to work. This is the way you communicate to God. Now, many of us can log on Instagram or here on YouTube, right? We can type a message in the comments section and communicate with the people broadcasting. You can go to Instagram. You can communicate with the person who posted the video or post your own, and others can react to it again and again, right? Millions of people potentially have access to something you've created, and you can respond to some of those people. Now, they can reread what you said. They can show people what you said. And they can even get you to confirm that it's you saying it. Such a thing doesn't exist with the God of the Bible. You
Right.
just have to, it's again, it can be misattribution. And I do want to say, I'm not trying to be mean. I think a lot of people sincerely do that. They're sincerely wrong. They're sincerely giving God the credit. I in better financial years, I would give a lot of money away to this or that cause or homeless people and stuff like that. And so often they would say, "Oh, thank God." And I'm like, "No, it's me. It's me doing it, buddy. If you left it up to God, I don't know how long you'd be standing.
But see, that's the thing too. Like, it's time to tell them that. Like, this is the thing. Like, a lot of my motivation to do this is I wanted somebody to tell me I'm wrong. But a lot of this now, like, I'm trying to really get at the idea of that these are good people, because for the most part, like, you tell a person something like that, no, I did it, it was me or whatever, their response is going to be, well, God placed you in my life. And you go, you know what, not for nothing, but that's kind of shitty. You know, it's kind of frustrating that you're so insistent on being right about your God. You assume that let's just play the video. Because I'm gonna get on a whole rant.
The greatest line I've ever heard about prayer, and of course I don't remember who wrote it, was, God hears our hearts, not our words. I'm going to say that again. God hears our hearts, not our words.
And again, like, this is more nonsense. And I know, like, again, I know we use romantic language in other areas of life, but it's not okay here. You gotta understand this is how the cult operates, and we gotta deconstruct the cult bullshit. if you want to tell me you have a partner who sometimes has difficulty expressing their emotions or their feelings, but they have different ways of showing you, and so you know that their heart is in the right place, that's very different than literally saying God hears our hearts, not our words. Because again, it's not a real relationship, and this is how you emotionally manipulate people. And it really it sidesteps the fact that, again, your prayer is this: you go into a space and you use language, you're talking to God, and rather than focusing on the fact that God is not responding back to you in any way you can really understand, you make it about a heart thing. Well, then God hears your heart. Well, now you should be listening to hear his heart. And this is just how this cult works. I don't know. It's just kind of gross.
No, I have
Well,
anything to add. I think that's
okay.
very
So can we
very
all
well
please just forget about am I
thanks.
saying the right thing or using the right words, and just get down to the core? What's going on in my heart? If we can speak heart, we can speak God's language.
Speak heart.
And if we flip that around, we have to learn how to listen to God's heart inside my own heart.
Hey, Robin, can
And
you
not for
speak
any
heart?
words or feelings or signs, but in very subtle and gentle inspirations or movements in my heart, and those aha moments of clarity in my soul. And once we master this very delicate language of heart, that's when we're talking to God.
Okay, and here's more of the gaslighting. Once we master this, like as if it's some skill, like as though you can practice and get better. And this is more of and again, like think just, gang, I know we want to be nice to Christians in our life, but you have to you have to love them enough to tell them the truth, y'all. I know that's what they say about gay people, but it's true about them. You have to love them enough to tell them the truth, because this is cruel. This is a cruel state for somebody to live in, to just be so wanting, so expecting, so desperate to move in a way that will and if you know real Christians, you understand what I'm saying. You understand how desperate they are. They will tell you how much they're constantly looking for a word from God, looking for an inspiration. You know, if you really look at a hardcore Christian's life, you will recognize this is killing them. They are in a state of like perpetual desperation to just feel something that amounts to an acknowledgement from God that they even exist. And what the message they really get from apologists, from the church, from all sides, is that it's their fault. They haven't mastered conjuring God's presence. They haven't been faithful enough. They haven't surrendered enough. There's some area of sin in their lives that they haven't given up. It's victim blaming. It's the person is a victim of the church's indoctrination and cruelty. And when they don't receive the benefits that are promised to them, when they don't feel God's presence, they don't feel anything from God, they're told they're to blame. I just can't get down with that.
It really reminds me of
with me on this one.
Yeah, real Christians, KCA Randy, like not the people who don't care, right? The people who don't care are having a good time. They just pop in church on Sunday, sing a few songs, go home. You know, like they don't really. If you're not invested in the faith, then no, you don't. You know, you'll just say you feel God's presence because you know the music was good in church or whatever. It's not a problem. I'm talking. You got to know somebody like this, the real ones, the ones who really do put God first in everything that they do. There's a certain level of impoverishedness that results, and you just have to know it, right? Like if you're a casual Christian, you don't really think too hard about these things, so nothing is missing. But when you're a dyed in the wool true believer, you can't help but notice how much more they have on the line, it seems like.
Well, I was going to suggest if you could pull up a second video from, my gosh, 17 years ago. GII video did a video about praying to a jug of milk.
Yeah, I just saw
Do
that
you
on
recall that
somebody.
video?
Where I don't know where that came. Where did that come up? On somebody's video that came up on the
I
jug
don't
of
know,
milk thing.
but GII video put it up a long time ago. The video is called "The Best Optical Illusion in the World." So it's basically, it'll happen right away. It'll happen in time.
Yes, no, or
pray to
wait.
the jug of milk, or it won't happen at all. You can interpret no, it not happening as God saying no, right? The jug of milk saying no.
Right.
It happening right away, as in a prompt response. Obviously, that's wonderful. It's terrific. Your prayers were answered, or happening eventually. Your prayer was answered in the jug of milk's time. These are the responses we get from Christians when things, or no matter how things shake out, right? Those are their pre-programmed responses. Whether they realize what they're doing or not is a mystery to me. I don't know that they pick up on it, that this is the same. It doesn't matter what God I pray to or what item, my phone holder or
Right.
my marker here,
Absolutely.
One. Remember those old diving suits where the guy in the bottom was completely dependent on the guy in the top, and the guy in the top had to pump all the air down to the guy in the bottom, and if the guy in the bottom ever wanted to come up, he had to tug the rope and just hope and pray that the guy on top would see it and pull him up? Okay, the point is, if you're the guy in the bottom, you have to entrust your entire life into the hands of the guy in the top, even for your very next breath. Now,
I also just want to say real quickly, because this is slavery. This is the desire to be a slave. I know Christians try to get cute about this. They try to play at this idea, like I can say Christianity is about freedom and relationship and love. No. This idea that I depend on God for everything, even my very next breath, that's no. No, that's gross. And it's also, again, this fascism. It's literally, we're so dependent on dear leader for everything. So then what happens as a result of that? Oh, that means we owe everything back to the dear leader, right? And that's how the fascism of Christianity works. They're not going to come out and tell you that they're fascist. They're not going to come out and tell you that their faith is really about slavery. They're going to position it as God gives us everything. Oh, and then the fine print is therefore we owe him everything.
a similar but totally different way, we have to 100% have that same radical trust in the guy on the top, even for our very next breath. Now, here's where the analogy breaks down, because it's not just some guy on the top we're entrusting our entire lives to. It's the God of the entire universe.
And that's also supposed to be the thing. It's supposed to be okay when it's God, right? That's the other hook. But most of y'all know this. But see, this is the thing, right? Like, you hear even talk of like they'll celebrate somebody having such great faith that they'll say if God asked them to do something to their children, they would do it. No. It's not that they're a bad person. It's that it's okay because it was God, right? God asked, so I'm not a fucking monster for being willing to harm my child. Yeah.
In a way that, well, we could never possibly comprehend. Listen to these lines. The whole universe before the Lord is a grain of sand, a drop of morning dew. But not one tiny sparrow falls to the ground without God knowing it. And even the hairs on your head are numbered. So don't be afraid. You're worth more than all the sparrows. And yes, I paraphrase. This is who we're in the presence of. This is who I empty my entire heart to. This is who I entrust my next breath to.
And but how? Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, and again, like, I gotta cut you. Like, Christians, you just can't even show me that this God exists. Like, you keep insisting this God is the master of the universe, and the whole universe is but a grain of sand to him. How? Where does this come from? How have you been able? How would you even be able to verify a thing like that? There's so many things that they just believe, that they just take on faith. But that doesn't cut it. That doesn't, I don't know. It's just so weird. I don't know. Again, I know I used to be a believer, but the further and further I get away from that, I genuinely have a hard time comprehending how people can keep pretending to go along with this. And I say that strategic. I say that deliberately, y'all, because the further and further I get, I honestly think I know at some level they're pretending, but the further and further I get, I feel at some level they know they're pretending, and that's kind of what's changed. Because again, I can't believe people believe that. I think maybe they think they're supposed to believe it, so they go along with it, and then they say they believe it. Now that they've said they believe it, they have to live as though they genuinely believe it, because now they're supposed to believe it because they're committed to believing it. I don't know how it works, y'all, but it's really not making any sense to me how you can just say that, and how in 2024 you can just walk up to other people and just be like, well, I serve the master of the universe and he knows everything. It's
for me, masters of the universe, that's like He-Man and Skeletor.
He-Man. Yeah. Facts.
But I'm
No, it's very
52 years old, so that's why. But I think one of the things that makes religion, the Christian religion, very attractive and very strong is the community aspect. I mean, it has to be said, a lot of Christian churches do the community thing pretty well. They get you invited, they get you invested, and they get you coming back. So yeah, that's a win for them. Now, the product, it kind of has to be that community, because again, God's a no-show, right? People are just giving credit again and again. We've said this. They're just giving credit to God for whatever goes on. You get a refund check because you paid too much money at a time where you may not have a lot of money. Well, that's God. No, it isn't. It's somebody being honest enough to give you your money back, and maybe with an apology, right? Or it's you not realizing that you double paid something, and someone's sending you your money back, because they audited themselves. It isn't the divine creator of the universe saying, I took that money away from you and gave it to a company that made billions of dollars because I wanted you to get the money back at a time when you needed it, because you don't save your money.
I don't even care anymore about the community thing when people say that to me. I really don't. One, because my genuine thoughts are, one, that's a shitty community. Like, I'm really sorry that you want to be part of this bad community, but this community is based on lies. So like, I think it's terrible when people tell me that. It's like, because you're telling me you really don't care whether or not this thing is true. You really don't care or not what this thing is doing anymore. You just get a sense of belonging. And so who cares? Who cares how bad Christianity is? Who cares if it's true or not? As long as you get a sense of belonging. It's the same thing with being saved. It's like this idea that, like, I'm supposed to be okay with your faith because you tell me it's really important to you to believe that you're part of the chosen people who are going to live forever. I can't think of a more childish reason to be part of something. I can't think of a more selfish motivation. So fine, go ahead and be a Christian. And a lot of people are going to treat you like you're a really great person because of that. But I'm not one of them. I'm not about to. You want to be a Christian? Fine. Do I have to accept that you're a Christian? I guess but I could tell you this much. If I do, I'm certainly not going to pretend that I think you're like some kind of morally superior being who's somehow anything other than like a selfish person who wants to believe a childish fantasy.
Important to prepare before we pray, because remember, we're in the presence of the God of the universe.
The I got
Okay, that was a
mine
lot of
attitude,
peace.
pretty much. YouTube
Keep this
punk.
in mind. To the degree in which I
Exactly.
make myself present to God, to that same degree, God will make himself present to me. Think about that. So I like to find a quiet, dark spot, feet on the ground, palms open, ready to receive. Posture is important because our body is the manifestation of our soul. So if our body's open, our soul's open.
All right, I just the imagery is funny here to me. I thought God was supposed to be everywhere in all things. Look at the trees, you go out, but it's just funny to me that it's almost like this weird subliminal confession that like to feel the presence of God, you have to go into a room where there's nothing. You like, you have to go through, because again, you have to be in a presence, you have to be in a state of mind where there's no other real substantive material thing to even draw your attention away. It's like, do you understand what I'm saying? It's weird. It's like when I sleep, right? When I sleep, in order for me to like be able to rest, I need to not have, so I wear like an eye cover, I wear like an eye mask because I don't want light to bother me, and I plug my ears because if I hear any noise, it's gonna take me away, right? But I don't need those things if I'm having sex. If I'm having sex with a real human being in my bed, like the TV could be on, it could be noise going around, you get right, because I'm having a real experience and I'm able to tune other things out because the visceralness of what's happening right now, right? It's like if you're playing a sport, right? There's crowds in the bleachers and da-da-da, but you can tune all that out and play ball because you have to. Your coach is yelling at you, your teammates are doing something, you got to defend a person, you're sweating, you're looking at the score, right? There's so much real, tangible stuff that you can hang on to that you don't have to be in a anechoic chamber, right? But these people, like, just like somebody who floats, like you have to go into a place where you're floating so you don't even feel the ground and you're weightless and you're isolated, so there's no sound, there's no light coming in. I mean, it's literally what people have to do when they're going into an internal space, when they're going into a realm where there's nothing for them to do but try to get more into themselves.
Let me jump in real quick. Matthew 6:6 in the KJV, King James Version of the Bible says, "But when thou prayest," this is Jesus speaking, "enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father who is in secret, and thy Father will," great, there's an ad blocking this. "And thy Father who seeth in secret shall reward thee openly." Okay, so that's probably part of where this guy is coming from. He's recalling that. One of the benefits of this is people don't think you're insane and talking to yourself. So
yes, that's another. Oh, wait, but hang on, and that can be shade right there, right? Because there's a lot of Christians that are like that. In other words, like you said, there's no cost to it, right? So they can be bolder in their faith rather than when you're in public and people might look at you funny if you're really praying it down.
Mm-hmm. Now, you reminded me of saying 77 from the Gospel of Thomas, and the Bible rarely gets as pretty as this. Jesus said, "I am the light that is over all things. I am all. From me all came forth, and to me all attained. Split a piece of wood, I am there. Lift a stone, and you will find me there." Pretty. But the fact is, you have to balance the two. So for this guy saying, go sequester yourself away from other people and get focused. Again, he's giving you essentially meditation guidelines. And I've mentioned on the Hot program before, I used to do this in college for other people. I'd have 40 people in the lounge, and I'm giving them all a guided meditation. Everybody gets the same thing for the most part.
The other thing is,
it worked wonders for people.
it's also we sort of tease at, like, you're talking to a Christian, you're having a real problem, and they say, I'll pray for you. And in a sense, they're saying, oh, you're going through some really tough times right now, I'll go whisper at the sky for you, right? But this, to me, highlights that, where when they want to grow in their faith, grow in their religious power, grow in, you know, their religious devotion, it's, I'll go in a room and do nothing. And go to an empty room with nothing going on by myself, sit in a room in silence and think. And it just highlights the way in which prayer, it's just about nothing. It's just about nothingness. And it bothers me that, like, again, you have a mass shooting, and what do all the politicians come out and talk about? Thoughts and prayers,
baby.
Everybody prayer, you know. And again, that's the instruction, you know. We're losing child lives to gun violence. Let's all go into our prayer closets, sit there with our both feet on the floor, and think on the presence of God. Yeah, that's what they're asking us to do, y'all. And it's crazy. I'm just not with it.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that. If only that was enough. I think we do have to wonder. The Bible, the Apostle Paul mentions that Satan is the god of this world. Okay, so let's go back to the thoughts and prayers thing with that in mind. And Satan is what? Supposed to corrupt human beings, right? So there's a school shooting. People send thoughts and prayers. That doesn't end the school shootings. There are only more school shootings in grocery stores and such.
Yes, right.
Racially motivated, some kind of hate motivated.
Right,
a person who's just disgruntled and wants to lash out after they finish their manifesto. Right. We get more of it. A tornado wipes out, let's pick a state, Kansas, right? Wipes out entire communities in Kansas. Well, thank God, huh? For what? He just wrecked a bunch of stuff, caused billions of dollars in damage. What are we thanking him for? Wouldn't it be better if God said, I diverted that tornado so that it basically went around everything of value? And these crops over here needed some more irrigation, so I dumped some of the river water.
Or I'm God, so there just are no I love you, and there's no such thing as tornadoes.
There's no such thing as tornadoes, disease, right? Violent crime, petty crime. It all goes away. I think
the funny thing is, if there was actually, check this out. If there was actually an all-powerful, all-knowing, and all-loving God, there would be no need for a heaven.
That's actually very pretty. Would probably feel we were there already.
I know. I hope I remember it. But no, seriously, right? Because he would love us. He'd be all powerful. He would make sure we don't have diseases. He would make sure we don't suffer. There would be really no need for us to die unless it was literally we live on heaven on earth, and then he gives us like a time limit, and so we just peacefully just shut off at some point, right? Like, but seriously, there would literally be no need for a heaven. Like, we wouldn't need one.
You had your 120 years. Give your house and furniture away. Tomorrow you come. Tomorrow you'll just fade out of existence.
Yeah.
Or in a month you'll fade out of existence. Give all your things away to someone who could really use them. You've enjoyed them. Time to pass them on. Amen.
Exactly.
That sort of thing. But it isn't that way, Pocket Locker. Sadly, the weird thing is, I think if there were a God, it should be as you have described, where things would just be better. I'm about to become a first-time dad. Now, if I do what I did when I was an uncle, and my nieces and nephews were small and around me, I'm looking after what they need. Right? I'm making sure you need some water, you need some food. I'm getting that for them. They want to change the channel, want me to turn it to Happy's Place or whatever the heck they want to watch on TV. I'm doing that sort of, looking after them to make sure that they are having a happy life, not just in the moment, but I'll also sit down and teach them things like math or how to tie their shoe so that they can go on and use those lessons in their life moving forward. I'm shepherding them to some degree, looking after them. Now, I'm supposed to do this for my child as well. Well, if we are God's children, where's that at? When does God step in and say, hey, you started a business, which I respect, but here's some things you're not doing right. So let's get those things fixed. I'm gonna get you started so you can do it on your own.
Actually, I gotta stop you there. There's we wouldn't need businesses. We wouldn't be working. If there wasn't all loving God, I would not need to work. No, yeah, that's one of the reasons I think Christians, like their current vision sucks. I always say their vision sucks because they literally, it always involves work and let's improve the economy and get you a better job. And like, that's no. All right, here, let's keep going.
Under the pocket locker model, my wife wouldn't have had to make me mango juice. We could have a mango tree outside and go outside.
I think especially in a country like this, we could afford to provide everyone a minimum income. And when I say minimum income, I am not talking like $15,000 and you live in a shoebox. I'm talking like 90,000 a year and you live in at least a townhouse. And then people would be creative and whatever. So you could, I'm not saying you couldn't work, like people would still start stuff and do things just because people are not going to sit around. So there'd be some economy on top of that.
All right,
but that's mostly what it would be. It would be like, oh, me and my band are gonna come play. You would be able to do things like you'd start a restaurant more because you don't need the money, but you just now have the time. And then I go play. Don't get me started. Yes, I have a vision, y'all.
Look, let's. I have struggled with that idea. So let's do an episode on that, maybe next week.
Yeah, that's a good episode.
Because robots are coming, and I saw the movie.
That's exactly my point, is that it needs to be about leveraging technology so that it works for the business. No, sorry, that it works for the people, not for business owners, right? And so like right now you have a situation where people are afraid that AI or robot's going to take their job. That's because under the current model, the bot and the AI would work for the business owner, and so they would replace the employee. But if we made it so that was not the case, the real thing is we should want the robots and the AIs to take our jobs, because I hate grading. So great, if a robot does that, that's awesome. That shouldn't make me financially insecure. The reason it would make us financially insecure is because of our economic policy, not because of the technology. So yeah, that's kind of my
we got to talk.
That's my short. Yeah, that's my preview. Yeah,
I many moons ago I began writing a screenplay where one of the lead characters, his consciousness was put into a robot, and he was the first person that this would happen to. And all these problems came up as a result. Hey, this guy's a billionaire. He's in a robot now. That means his money never goes away. The land he owns, he doesn't have to give it to anybody after he's gone. I mean, he's still walking around. He's going to be around for thousands of years. And they realize more and more people are going to do this. So what do you do about housing? What new laws have to be created for people in that situation? Yeah. And the problems were being brought up in the news, but he was sort of immune to it because it's like, well, nothing's going to happen to me. I'm the first guy.
I think the wealth inequality in this country is so bad that if we actually corrected it, most of us would make more money not working. Like if we got rid of wealth inequality and actually established a national minimum wealth, like even me with a PhD, I could, because that's what people say. If you actually did distribute even wealth, right, and let's say like the average thing became like 90K, that means even me with the PhD as an assistant professor at a university, I would make more money not working. Like that's what we should be thinking about. All right, let's keep going. That would be a great episode.
Or our
This is
soul
fun.
is spiritual. So this is our doorway, so to speak, into the spiritual. And that's where we're going to meet God. So the first thing we got to do is get into that room, the inner room, which is our hearts, and close the doors to everything else. Now let's start with a simple de-stressing technique. Focus on all the noise in your head, all the stress in your gut, anything that's weighing heavy on you. Imagine it all like a red smoke collecting in the center of your chest. And just keep taking deep breaths and exhaling it all out.
It's like this guy went to my meditation.
Just keep focusing on.
It's like this dude
Bag
just
of
wants
balls
me.
thing.
It's like he just wants to smoke some weed. Is what he was like.
Well, I would give people that instruction, like it was a dark cloud or smoke, and then over time I would have them, as they relaxed and breathe in and breathe out, it would dissipate that cloud. And the way that they
That did feel good.
the sense of lightness, yes, the sense of lightness that they would feel when the cloud was gone. You know, again, it was. I don't know why I stopped doing it. I guess I moved out of that residence hall, but when I was doing it there, people were loving it. Like, when you doing that again, man?
I will say this. This is how you know if you're a smoker. You do have to kind of go through. You've got it. You do feel that, and if you like that, then you're a smoker. If first you got to get used to it, but it's a thing. Like people, like that's the thing. It's like people who have a hard time quitting, not because they are like addicted to nicotine or whatever, but they just say, if they say to you, I like smoking, I think that's part of it. I think that is really part of it. If somebody who likes smoking. Mm-hmm. That's different than somebody who's addicted to. Do you see what I'm saying? Like if you actually like the physical act of it.
Your breath. And picture the smoke passing through your lips. Next, imagine the room you're in, the environment all around you, the chair you're sitting.
Yeah, even for me, like a lot of times when I'm working or whatever, like a lot of times people, you know, you would see me like I smoke throughout the day, almost like I smoke from periodically throughout the show. And a lot of times you might really think of it as like, oh my God, these people are such stoners that they're just smoking all day, even while they're working. And no, it is like a momentary meditation, right? Part of work for me, my work is very thought heavy, relationship heavy. It's like intense to me, right? And so it does feel like, oh my goodness, I'm doing this, and I'm getting worked up to an extent. And then it's like, take a break, like reset, chill for a moment. Everything's cool. We're progressing. Okay. You know, what's in the next period? Okay, work. Okay. Roll out for a minute. So there is something meditative that I think doesn't get appreciated enough. I think people are quick to just think, you know, people are just such stoners, they just want to get high all the time. But there is a meditative component that I think helps people regulate through high effort things.
Even your own body just fading away.
Pause it. Again, I'll say, like, this is a kind of method I would use back in college. Whether you believe in a God or not, this is effective. There's one. I dated someone who was like, I don't know, like one of the top students at the university, and she lived in like the genius people dorm, and we went over there one night, and I told them like, oh yeah, I've been practicing meditating people and hypnotism. And one of the women there said, well, can you hypnotize me? I'm like, sure. After I looked at her eyes, I paid attention to what the guy told me. So I looked at her eyes, like, yeah, I can hypnotize you. And so I did it in front of like 8 other people. And there was a moment, this was a Christian woman, there was a moment where she realized she was under. She realized she didn't have control. I did. Well, the truth is, she had control. It appeared I had control because that's what she wanted. She let me do it. So I had her draw her hands together and start lifting them up, but I didn't touch her. And for the people observing me, I was wrapping a rope around her hands. I'm doing like it's improv. I'm doing the motions like I'm doing it. And then I'm lifting it like this. She's literally.
But see, this is how the faith healing scams and all of this stuff happen, because you get this person in a state and they're doing all this stuff. This is so problematic. You know what else I find interesting?
What?
You know how like you can't, like as a former cigarette smoker, I can't be around cigarette smoking. I think there's a way, as a former religious person, sometimes I think it can contribute to like meditation and hypnosis and that stuff, like not working on you. Like for me, like when I meditate, like I can get with it in terms of like seeing the benefits people see and stuff like that, but I don't think I fully get the value out of it, partially because it's just so close to the religious experience. It feels like that. It feels like praying without God. And so I'm like, like
it's like a piano.
I'm kind of good. I'm good without either.
It's like a piano. You can either play some Bach or you could play
Sure. Yeah.
Same instrument, right? So back to that story, that woman snaps herself out of it, says, this is demonic. Now, again, I'm in the smart people dorm, the genius dorm. I don't live there. I don't have the grades for that. But the rest of the people looked at her like, you're insane. You're insane. He's just using your brain to get you to do something.
But that's what I'm saying. Like they know going in that that's the skepticism, and they're in the room and there's skeptics around them. What I'm saying is there's something, there's a lot there.
So
there's a lot there.
I'll say that, look, there's stuff I haven't really talked about on Hot Program, the experiences I've had in my life, but the human mind is extremely pliable. And the more creative a person is, the more that's true. I would even argue the more intelligent a person is, the more that's true. Why? Because they're smart enough to
it just depends
themselves.
on what type of intelligence they have.
I'm about to reassert something you've been saying. They're smart enough to convince themselves right through their skepticism. They burst right through their skepticism to convince themselves that what they want to believe is happening is indeed happening. So I did a past life regression. It cost me $200, right? I went to hypnotherapy to try to get a handle on some weight loss. And the guy mentioned he also did past life regressions. And I'm like, what's it cost? He goes, $200. I'm like, I can throw $200 away. Let's give it a shot. I recorded it and everything. It was one of the most spectacular experiences of my life that I ever had. And I told one of my best friends about it. And she said something very simple to me that I loved her for. She goes, you're one of the most creative people I know. How do you know you didn't make all that up? And I leaned back and I said, I did. Because he didn't tell me what I was seeing. He didn't tell me how I felt. That was all me. And she's real simple, matter of fact. Well, there you go. It was you. It's just like this prayer bit. It's 100% you.
Yeah.
That isn't
Right.
bad necessarily. That means to some degree, you have, if you focus on it, the ability to self-correct. That's awesome. But sadly, you have the ability to self-destruct. You have the ability to sit and go nowhere and be stifled. So you just got to figure out which direction you need to go in and get moving.
So none of those worries connected to it. It's just your heart in an infinite, empty void.
Yeah, his mic is
Now invite
quieter
him in.
today than usual.
And just like we know when somebody else enters the room, be aware of his presence in the room. And I can't stress this enough, but this is not about a feeling. It's about knowing and trust. And there's no words here. Our mind is silent. It's just my heart and his, and nothing else. Now we can just sit here forever, not say a word, and just be. This is actually the deepest form of prayer. But if we want to say something, I can't tell you what that is, but I find it helps to have a little structure. So where I usually start is, Dear Lord, I'm sorry for. Because remember, we're on sacred ground here. So search your heart for those dark spots. Or have I fallen short? With myself, with God,
Could you pause it?
with the people around me.
Please, thank you. So this person is now talking about how we are to solve our own problems through prayer. So God is literally not having to do much of anything here, according to their own example. He's telling us to look within us, right? To begin the process of sorting out the unknowns. Now, I look at Jester's comment, and I apologize to Sophia and everyone else when my volume is low. I'm doing this on my iPad. I don't normally use it. I normally use my phone, and that was wonky today. Jester, Lord of Fools, I see your comment. I'm smart enough to imagine how it would happen realistically, and therefore, how can I imagine it with realism? All right, so I'd like to offer you some tools that you already have. So whatever you're trying to resolve, whatever you see as a part of that solution, put it in front of you. There was some home renovation show on HGTV where the designer would lay out samples of fabrics that she liked. She would lay out little color swatches of for paint and things like that, different textures, all on like a little tray. So as you move around the home, you can kind of point out to your client, I'm thinking of this here and blah, 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 this wallpaper here, that sort of thing. That gives other people who are observing a chance to really understand what you mean. So in your own life, if you know you need, let's say it's a health thing, if you had weights, you could lift weights and get in better shape. And if you had a bicycle and so on and so on. So once you know what those resources you need are, start collecting them. And even when you have one, employ that first resource, right? If it's all you have, if you want to lose 20 pounds, all you have is a bicycle, then start by getting on that bicycle and going, and you can work in other things later. Go to Facebook Marketplace and see who's giving things away. People will literally give you the stuff that you gladly pay for if you wait around long enough. So look on OfferUp and blah, 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 local community boards, whatever it is. If you want to start a band, same thing. Where do people who want to be in a band congregate? Guitar Center or places like that. Whatever it is, start collecting those resources, and whatever resources you have, start using them right away. Because if it's a community thing, you're going to run into other people who have more resources or have connections that can get you connected. So you are using the real world to build what you want to see, one piece at a time. It's no longer your imagination. Your imagination is still necessary because your imagination tells you how to combine what you have and how to pursue what you don't have. Sorry for the long explanation.
What are the blocks getting in the way between me and him? And if you don't really know what to say here, ask him to show you. And he will. Over time. And please, just lose this idea of the angry God who's so disappointed in me. He's literally the dad in the prodigal son who runs out to meet us. Next, let's pray for each other. We're all suffering something, on the inside, on the outside, or both. And think big. There are no limitations. Think of all of us who are struggling out there. The sick, the dying, or those of us who have lost hope. And think of the overall balance of good and evil in our world, in our hearts. I don't think it's really so important about what we say, because he already knows. It's about, do I mean it, and do I trust that he can do something about it?
And so then do you really even need prayer? I mean, this is just like it doesn't matter what you say because he already knows your heart. I mean, this is the funny thing is this is stuff Christians to actually have debates about. But yeah, this is just more of that nothing. It's just so bothersome to me that people think this is actually doing something. I can, when I think back at my life as a Christian, I cannot believe how important prayer was to me.
Because love and faith is what he can work with.
Oof.
Not words.
I think it was Christopher Hitchens.
We pray for.
I think it was Christopher Hitchens who pointed out, if God is so wise and able to control things and see all outcomes and know which one is best, the only real prayer to be prayed is thy will to be done. Thy will be done. Right? That's the only sensible prayer.
Yeah, and even that one would be redundant.
It would literally be unnecessary.
Yeah.
Even in the Lord's Prayer, it says, thy kingdom come, thy will be done.
Yeah, but it would be
God's
anyway.
Will be done. Like, go ahead, God, do your thing, boy.
Jesus says very tenderly, tell me your fears as simply as you can. Tell me what you need. Tell me what you want. Tell me all about your sorrows and your joys. And just pour it all out. Now, I've found the more we tell them about our fears, the more those fears lose their teeth until we're just not afraid of them anymore. And it's important to know the difference between what I want and what I need. And remember, Jesus is way more concerned about our spiritual welfare than our material welfare.
And again, this is just so, it's so weird. Like, one, there's a selfishness in the tell God you're sorry. Oh wait, he's not the angry type of dad who's mad at you, but before you get to what you need, you better tell him every bad thing you've done. Then the fact that you do that and you pray for others just so that you can get to the good part, which is when you talk about what you need and want. And then, of course, just this silliness of spirituality and giving God this out because, you know, hey, you may need a fucking job and a roof over your fucking head, but, you know, God's really concerned that you're not sinning and that you're, you know, in the right place spiritually, you know, that you have eternal security, the health of your soul. What about your saint progress, y'all? Are you, you know, what
Saint
about, you know,
progress.
your, you know, this is like, you know, EA Sports, you know, make a saint 2004 or whatever, you know, and you're in career mode and you're tracking your progress to sainthood. You know, you start as, I don't know what you start as, but what's going on with that? But this is what I'm saying. This is silliness. And at the same time, you sidestep him actually having any obligation to improve our material conditions. How convenient. Especially when all of these Christians and people in the name of God seem to be the ones making our material conditions worse. And that's just, again, like that's why I just, it's just like, whatever. Who cares anymore about this? One thing I heard was that Trumpism and some other things have really, you know, brought out the hypocrisy of the church. And yeah, it's just not on the same pedestal for me that it used to be.
So I'll speak for myself here, but sometimes I think we get all wrapped up in asking about all this stuff and have very little or no concern about any of this stuff. And it's Jesus who says, seek first me, and then I'll give you all that other stuff. So after I ask him for all the things I think I need, I usually just say, Lord, you know what I need better than I do. That's what I want. And after I ask him for all the things I think I want, I say, Lord, if this desire is from you, then let it be done. If not, then please remove it from my heart. Either way, we're covered. And the more we do this sincerely, the more we're going to find there's really only one thing that I need and want. And finally, and this is probably the most important part, we just say thank you. You don't have to use any fancy words. Just say it in your own words, from your heart, and mean it. And then I always close simply by saying, Lord, I know you can do all things. If we're being honest, sometimes we just don't want to pray.
But God can't do anything, and this is what I don't understand. Like, even Sophia, why? Like, why? Like, sure, you could, in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, bless the name of the Lord forever and ever unto the ages of ages. Amen. I mean, like, you could do that. But why? Like, I literally don't even understand, like, why shouldn't God have to come help us? Shouldn't God have to, like, show up and show out? Shouldn't things get better before we just, I just don't understand it anymore. Like, why?
I have to share something with you.
Go ahead.
So lately I've been doing research into the book of Revelation, which is kind of an ongoing thing. And I've been revisiting what the writings of the prophets like Micah, and Zephaniah, and Zechariah. And it seems like certainly there's a connection. And I'm trying to see how that connects with the Gospels. I think Jesus and pals, if Jesus was a real guy, are trying to bring about things they had read about in the prophets. They're trying to do it. It's conscious. It's not that they are simply chosen by God. They have chosen to be those people themselves. And it seems that when these prophets are crying out to Israel, telling them what the Lord is going to do it's a tit for tat. You guys do this, the Lord will do that. They know that they are dealing with a superstitious population. And they know that they have a convincing argument, or at least they think they do. And they don't think their argument alone is enough to sway people. So what they do is they take their ideas and say it's from God. And some may even sincerely believe that this inspirational idea that they have to share with their brethren is from God. But if it's just, if it's just Pocket Locker 86 with a fantastic drum beat in his head, and maybe you can sit there and play it, but you got to find people that want to listen to it if you want to see them dance. But if everybody's just walking by and nobody stops to appreciate it, if you're out there being a busker on the street, in the town square playing your drums, it's like it's for nothing. But if the Edge and Bono come stand next to you and they have amplifiers, now suddenly people are stopping because what you've added to what you were doing has gotten them interested. So doing something like Sophia did here with this, I don't even know what the proper term for something like this. It's sort of like either the beginning of a prayer could be, or the end. There's certainly things like this listed in many holy books, but it's saying, hey, we're handing this over to a higher power.
I just can't. I just can't. Like, I'm just so.
It's not your way.
I know. I'm just saying. It's just like we're supposed to be free people. It just bothers me that people want to have a lord and a master, and I don't see how weird that is. And just to we talk about Kim Jong whatever, right? And it's like everything has to be about the dear leader, and I just don't know. It's just so weird to be in a state where you're not living under dictatorship and you're not a slave, and to just voluntarily give yourself over to the rule of something you can't even prove exists. It is fascinating, although currently I'm a little bit more concerned about the danger of so many of these people. All right, let's keep rolling.
And a lot of it has to do with all these things, but these are just the symptoms. I think what it really comes down to, and believe me, I'm talking to myself here.
I just want to crack on him a little bit here, because he kind of, you don't want your prayer routine to get dry, but at the same time, like, hey, what I like to do is go sit in a dark room with absolutely nothing, with my feet on the floor, and the same thing every time. It feels like a broken record. Well, hate to say this, but I have this structure that I like to use every time I go pray. It's not good to treat prayer with God as the vending machine. Don't forget to tell God what you need, what you want, which I don't know why you got to tell the all-knowing God anyway. Oh, it's a chore obligation. Let me show you how to go deeper and deeper in your commitment to prayer. Like they just don't even. It doesn't matter though. It's faith. It's faith. It doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to add up. Doesn't have to be consistent. The thing you make your whole video about doesn't have to line up with what you said you were going to do in the video. It just doesn't matter, because Jesus.
I think what it really comes down to, and believe me, I'm talking to myself here, is, do I really love God? And do I really believe he's a
Logan, that
living
sounds
person
painful.
I can talk to, who hears me? really loves me.
Good self-reflection.
Because if
Yeah,
I do,
best.
then what better things could I possibly be doing with my time on this tiny little planet than spending a few moments every day hanging out and talking with the God of the universe, the King of Peace, the perfection of everything that I
All right,
want,
Jesus.
that I need, that I'm searching for. And if you struggle with these, it's okay.
And again,
We
it's
all
just
do.
so Jesus said, I came not to bring peace, but a sword. I'm not going to let you do that to me. Like, I'm just not. Like, Jesus is the King of Peace. No, nope. This is what, and again, I think it's a lot of non-believers that we gotta acknowledge that we play a role in this stuff. We let people just be illogical or irrational. Look, I get that you respect people's beliefs. People can have their beliefs. That doesn't mean that you have to allow them to make illogical, irrational claims around you or lie just to feel comfortable in a situation. Like if somebody tells you Jesus is the King of Peace, you could just be like, he literally said he came not to bring peace but a sword. Just saying. And that's it. You don't have to fight or argue about it, but you can definitely correct them. It's 2024. Everything is on the table as far as fact checking is concerned. And I'm sorry, like if you say something that's just totally out of whack with the red letters in the Bible, bro, I'm just talking about what's in the red letters in the Bible. Like what? Like it's not. It should
But
be
then
a
that's
problem.
what we take to our prayer. Open and honestly. So try this for a week, and you can make it your own. But I guarantee you this. At some point, you will hear him, somewhere deep inside your soul.
No, you
and when you
will
do,
not.
remember that. Because that's what we build off of. And then the rest is just a giant love affair, where we're no longer talking just to God.
Okay. See, first off, you won't hear from him. You'll just do that thing we talked about at the beginning where you pretend. But second off, y'all got to stop with the language. Y'all got to stop with the language. I don't have a girlfriend, but let's pretend I had a girlfriend. I could not go up to her and say, oh, I had this coworker named Sandy. We just have such a good time. I speak to her and, I ask for advice and guidance. And, once in a while I hear back from her and she speaks to me. And then from there, honey, it was just a giant love affair. It's over. Okay. It's over. You just threw your relationship away and don't even trip acting like, I don't know what her problem is. I don't know why she's so mad. I don't know why she left me and left all my clothes outside the house when I went to work the next day. All I did was say we had to look, Christians, a giant love affair means something on Earth 1. Okay, I know you like to live on Earth 2. It means something in English. I know you like to speak Christianese, but this is where your Christianese goes too far. Y'all deliberately just be all over the erotic language. You cannot tell me the church is the bride of Christ and I do everything I do for him, and then it was a giant love affair. Like, no, this is just no. You just made it something it didn't have to be. Look, just say Jesus is your God. You worship Jesus or whatever. But I would laugh. I'm sorry, I'm gonna laugh. Like you're gonna say these certain things when we're having lunch at Panera, and I'm a chuckle. I'm a giggle a little bit when you say these things, and that's why I'm a giggle. Am I so wrong for giggling when they talk like this? This is that Jesus is my boyfriend stuff.
Well, you gotta realize that's their way. If you want to call people, like here on Hot Program, it's very easy for us to call people on their stuff. Now, when you're in that social situation at Panera, it's a bit harder. Because again, what happens is you see the person. You're not broadcasting. We are broadcasting
Sure.
right now. Now it's someone in front of you, and you can see their feelings, which in some situations is a luxury. If you're there and you're going to disabuse them of their faith, it might not feel like much of a luxury.
It just, well, look, I think, I just think the time has come, you know. One, I just think the issues we face are too pressing. And I'll be honest, I'm a too little too late person. This is a very key distinction. A lot of atheists out here would be happy for the church and religion to stay around, but just become less problematic. I, for one, of course, I would be happy to see them less become problematic in the interim, but I don't want that. I want them to go away. I'm in kill it mode, because it's just been too little, too late, and you know they'll just be on the wrong side of the next thing. It's just been there's been too much damage done to salvage it, and it's not true. So, and a lot of those things, that's the problem. Like when something becomes like, it can become better, but it's just hanging around more, right? It's just delaying the inevitable in my feeling. So that's just kind of where I'm at. Like, I just don't even. I'm just like, look, it's just time. But it is hard. It is definitely hard when you're in a relationship with people to talk to them about it. But I guess what I'm getting at is I don't feel they're losing anything. I feel like since it's not true, in reality, they're not losing anything. I know it feels like a lot to them, but I think once they get past the initial, to be quite frank, self-manifested trauma, right? When you take religion from somebody, that, again, they're not really losing anything. It is a traumatic experience, but that's because of how much they've attached themselves to it. But there's just too much to be gained. Like, I just don't want to play anymore. Like, it's just like living, I do agree with like the people who, their feelings really changed because of Trump. They just had enough. Living through COVID with the way they were, that was a big one for me. That was just like, I just had enough. Like, when you had the we knew the early large breakout events happened at churches, and they insisted on gathering anyway. I just, I just think, whatever, like I don't care anymore. I'm more concerned about protecting people from the church than I am about protecting the feelings of church people. And I know that sounds cruel, but to me, the feelings of church people is what is being manipulated to keep the church in power. So that's the thing I have to attack. It's unfortunate, but you have to defend yourself by fighting against what's used against you, right? Like, if somebody's gonna, try to break into your house, you gotta put a lock on it. If somebody's gonna shoot at you, you gotta protect yourself somewhere where a bullet can't hurt you. And unfortunately, if somebody weaponizes community and hope, meaning, and purpose, and making people feel like they're being moral and all of this nonsense, then you've got to me, that's what I'm focused on fighting against, because that's what they use. So I didn't choose this battle.
You've seen in your family and with your grandparents the betrayal of religion, how they poured so much in, and at a time where they really could use what? That the Bible says, spread your bread upon the waters, it'll come back to you. Your grandparents did that. They
Yeah, they
poured
did, and it
themselves,
didn't come back to them.
and it didn't come back to them.
And I think
So
that's
you have a front row seat for the betrayal.
yeah, and
I
that's a
think
big part of it.
That's the icy sting of religious faith. Somebody else did far less than your grandparents, and they became famous and a billionaire. Believing in the same Jesus, right?
Yeah, if you think about the way most people are living right now in this economy, and then think about the limited income of a lot of our parents and grandparents, you think they can afford to be giving away 10% of their gross income like that? You know, I doubt it. And just the way, you know, the different policies that the church has gotten them to go along with, and just taking all their time. Me personally, like in my family, I feel like it's taken everything from us, including the ability to potentially generate generational wealth, not just in terms of the direct funds that have been paid to the church, but just the way that it's occupied whatever excess time, energy, mental capacity people in my family have had. So I'm thoroughly convinced that it's really been devastating to my family's economics. But that I'm probably the only person that'll look at that honestly. But yeah, I think it does that for a lot of people.
I think you make me flash back to a couple of months ago, back in early May when I was in Alabama. I went to see my mom, thinking I'm probably never going to see her alive again. When I got there, a few things had changed since the last time I saw her. She's now an amputee. Prayer didn't fix her leg. Prayer won't regrow that same leg. She had a very nasty incident where her gallbladder burst. And she also had a urinary tract infection. And when my mom gets a urinary tract infection, she is not herself. Slow to respond, very sleepy, absent-minded, already a soft voice, softer than mine, Sophia, and barely audible in some cases. My mother can look at me with different eyes than she did when she was still wheelchair bound, but had both legs. As I would look at her thinking, God has utterly failed you. There's no need for the words to even leave my mouth.
Yes. I felt that.
She looks at her atheist son, who will wear his atheist experience shirt, on an airplane. I'll wear it to hospital, baseball game, whatever. Like, it's okay that other people know. I just don't happen to believe that stuff. You go right ahead. I welcome you to it. I'm open to other people having that idea. But for me, I'm lucky, Pocket Locker, because it's not a thing where I need to say I told you so. Because I know they know.
Yeah.
With my uncle, I didn't have to say, Uncle Jimmy, I told you so. As he lay dying in bed, he knew, unable to feed himself, clean himself, get up and go to the bathroom. What kind of God is smiling on him down from heaven? Jimmy, I can't wait to see you here. Right. You won't believe the activities we have planned for you. We have racquetball, swimming, swimming, and you can barbecue every day. up here, you know.
Right. Right.
There's some Hebrews in Africa and in Jerusalem still, you know, making sacrifices. You can sit next to me and smell the sweet savor. That isn't reality. The reality is my uncle knew exactly how quiet that hospital room could be. And when he was sent to hospice, he knew exactly how quiet hospice could be. When the person crying down the hall because they're in pain, he knows it's going to be him someday. And they got to bring him the morphine so he can zone out and be comfortable. He knows that's going to be him. Fading, fading, fading. And then one day, I'm sending money to his daughter so she can bury him.
Right.
He saw it coming. My mother sitting there in that hospital, and they took extremely good care of my mother at that hospital. Competent doctors figured out what to do to help my mother, figured out what to do to nurse my mother back to health. It wasn't prayer. Prayer would have been far less expensive. But sorry. The Gospel of Mark, chapter 16, verses 16 to 20, right? The Christians at that hospital didn't have the power to simply lay hands on my mother and heal her. The church she used to go to, the people, the minister, he couldn't show up there with his wife and a couple of other people from the teen ministry, and they do the same thing. It wasn't so simple. It wasn't as advertised. It wasn't as promised in the Bible. This was a tense moment where people were coming to see my mom thinking like, this might be the last time. My wife is pregnant. I'm thinking she's not probably going to live to see the baby born. So she better meet my wife now and at least get a chance to touch my wife's belly and maybe listen to see if the baby does anything in there. You know, is she moving around? What have you? Have the best experience you can now, Mom. Because we don't know if you're going to be here at the end of September. We don't know. And prayer won't solve it. But competent, well-trained medical staff couldn't save my uncle, but they could save my mom. Prayer could save neither. Because there's hundreds of people, thousands of people who will die today after very loving, concerned, caring, sincere people of all religions have prayed for them.
That's right. That's right. All right, y'all. Well, that's going to do it for us. Really appreciate everybody. I know today's the last day of Pride Month, so happy Pride Month to
happy Pride Month
as we continue to celebrate. And of course, we'll continue on. Pride never ends. Also, please remember to try to donate to Lena's fundraiser if you can. It's really important. Lena's been having a rough time financially. So there are 2 links down in the description that you can use to donate, and you can also feel free to copy those and share them on your socials or any way you can. So appreciate all of those that have donated or continue to spread the word. I'll be hanging out and Gather if you want to come link up with the gang on offline, and there is a link in the description to do that. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Please like the video, subscribe to the channels, leave us a comment if you're watching later on. And you have any closing thoughts, my one black friend?
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of new names in the chat. Thanks for tuning
it's awesome.
in. I figured out a way I could actually be aware of what was going on in the chat. Ex-Vangelic Carol, thanks for joining us. Prayer exacerbated my anxiety and depression. It was dangerous to my mental health. So I'm glad I stopped torturing myself every evening.
Absolutely.
Me too.
Absolutely.
Me too. I think the thing we can all stay aware of, and I sort of summed it up a moment ago. Prayers people go to when they've been assured that it works. And I think if something needs to be done and you are listening to that prayer, you can speak up and say, well, I can't do this, but this I can do. You're having trouble feeding your family? Give me a list, give me a grocery list. And you can then go through your cabinets and take out whatever, like canned goods or whatever, and then deliver it to that person or their family. Or you know somebody who works at a food bank, and then a trunk load of things are coming to that family. You know of a social program. You know of a support group. You know of blah, 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 blah. But you can then contribute to that prayer being answered by actual people whose joy or business it is to answer that prayer. I had an ex-girlfriend, and I was an atheist at the time, and she would pray, and I would pray with her because she wanted me to, whatever. But I would listen to what she was asking for, and I would go about doing what I could to see that she got what she said she needed. And she said to me, well, haven't you noticed my prayers get answered? And because everybody in my family is a hothead, I simply responded, by me.
Right. Exactly.
Did you not notice?
But that's the thing. You do the same thing to the doctors. All right, y'all. Yeah, it's gonna do it for us. For me, prayers just sitting in this, by yourself in a room talking to God. It's it's quite the silly activity, and yeah, I think it's time to just stop. I know it's hard to be direct with people about these things, but I'm finding it harder and harder not to. So maybe there's hope for that in the future. Yeah. All right, y'all. We'll see you and gather. Be good to yourselves. Thanks so much, BC. Be good to yourselves. All right. We'll see you next time.